Hey guys, tonight we slip back into the dim mists of feudal Japan, where the air smells of wood smoke, ink, and occasionally singed hair. You're barefoot in a thatched roof village, with mist curling along rice paddies and crows gossiping overhead. But you're not here to admire the scenery. You're a child. And not just any child. You're Miyamoto Musashi, future swordsman, painter, hermit, and unshowered legend. Your earliest memory? Screaming. Someone is always shouting. Clashing steel rings through the valley, and your tiny hands are already calloused from gripping wooden swords. Technically, you're born around 1584 in Harima province, but official records were kind of optional then, and people weren't great at birthdays. Your father is a samurai, stern, grim, and possibly more into sword fighting than fatherhood. He teaches you to draw a blade before you're 10. There are no toys, just weaponry and weird silences. At age 7, you fight your first duel. Yes, 7. Your opponent probably assumed it was some prank, until you knocked him flat. There's debate about whether your father arranged it or just wanted to see what would happen. Historians still argue whether this child dueling tale is exaggerated, but they agree on one thing. You were terrifyingly talented. By your teens, you're already 6 feet tall, towering over most people like some mythical beast. Villagers whisper about you. You don't brush your hair. You don't really bathe. You sleep outside, eat with your hands, and sharpen sticks for fun. You're less teen warrior and more wilderness goblin with ambition. And Japan? It's on fire. Civil wars rage across the islands. Daimyo, warlords, backstab each other with enthusiasm. Castles fall. Entire provinces switch owners faster than socks at a spa. You survive not by joining a clan, but by walking away from them. One day, your father vanishes. Some say he dies in a duel. Others say he just leaves. You don't cry. Instead, you pack a travel bag, 1 sword, 1 bowl, 1 brush. Then you walk into the mountains alone. You probably won't survive this, honestly. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your local time and where you're watching from in the comments. I love seeing where all my sleepy historians are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sleep beneath pine trees, bathe in streams, and steal eggs from nests. Your life is half monk, half raccoon. In each village you pass, you find someone with a sword and ask them to fight, not out of anger, just curiosity. You're collecting experiences like they're shiny rocks. The funny thing? You win. Constantly. Even when they have armor and you just have a stick. Even when you're sick or starving. Even when it rains. Eventually, word spreads. A boy Ronin, masterless and rude, is cutting down seasoned samurai like weeds, and he smells like he hasn't changed clothes in a year. By the time you're 16, everyone's watching. They don't know what you're training for. Maybe you don't either. But every duel adds something. A quicker pivot. A feint you hadn't thought of. The knowledge that fear is just a chemical reaction. And then, you hear of a place that will change everything. Kyoto, the capital. A city of gold temples, ink-stained poets, ruthless clans, and the elite Yoshioka sword school. They say those boys fight like dragons. You lick your lips. Sounds fun. You hitch your robe tighter, sling your wooden sword across your back, and start walking east. Kyoto rises before you like a dream cast in lacquer and ash. Its tiled rooftops glint in the early sun, and the air smells of cherry blossoms, wet stone, and roasting eel. You march straight in, dusty, barefoot, your hair sticking out like angry seaweed. and make a beeline for the most prestigious sword school in the city, the Yoshioka Clan Dojo. No invitation, no introduction, just a challenge. This is not how polite dueling works. There's supposed to be ceremony, letters, courtesies. But you naturally skip all that. You barge in, ask for a fight, and grin like a wild dog. Your opponent is Seijuro Yoshioka himself, the heir to a powerful sword family, trained in etiquette, armored in pride. You beat him flat. People gasp. You just nod, then wander off to find lunch. A week later, his younger brother Ujiro comes after you. Another duel. Another win. This time, you make sure it's humiliating. And now you've really done it. The entire Yoshioka clan wants your head. They arrange a final duel, this time at night, in the fields outside town. You arrive late. Not fashionably late. Deliberately. Insultingly. Annoyingly late. The Yoshioka have brought dozens of men. They weren't planning a duel. They were planning an ambush. But you didn't bring a friend. You brought 2 swords. This moment, in 1604, becomes legend. Alone, against overwhelming numbers, you draw both blades and attack. Not with rage, but with calm, strategic violence. You move like someone dancing underwater. When the dust clears, you've killed their last heir. The Yoshioka name is shattered, and you walk away, scratched but undefeated. Historians still argue whether this triple duel unfolded exactly as the legends say. Maybe you had help. Maybe you didn't. But one thing is clear. From this moment on, you are more than a swordsman. You are an icon. You keep moving, because you always do. You wander from temple to castle, refusing to serve any lord for long. You try working for a few daimyo, but your personality is difficult. You don't bow well. You forget to wear shoes. You insist on painting in the middle of the night and muttering about water spirits. Not exactly employee of the month behavior. Still, they put up with you, because your reputation precedes you like thunder. You fight duels in bamboo groves, on bridges, even on boats. You often use a wooden sword carved from an oar or a tree branch. That's right. You fight full-grown armored samurai with lumber. And you win. You once beat a spearman while carrying a bundle of firewood. You didn't even drop the kindling. By now, your style is so unique, it earns a name. Niten Ichi-ryu, the 2 heavens as one school. You wield 2 swords simultaneously, fluidly, like a brush and a pen. It's revolutionary, and no one else seems to pull it off quite like you. Meanwhile, you collect hobbies like souvenirs. You study calligraphy, design gardens, whittle sculptures, and obsess over Zen philosophy. You sleep irregularly, eat erratically, and occasionally forget to speak to humans for weeks at a time. You're like a warrior savant, crossed with a crow on a caffeine bender. Somewhere around this time, you take on an adopted son, a talented young swordsman named Iori. You don't talk about feelings. You probably communicate entirely in awkward grunts and sparring matches, but you train him fiercely and quietly, and he follows you loyally for decades. Still, the world is changing. Japan is beginning to unify under the Tokugawa shogunate. Duels are becoming rare. Swords are becoming more ceremonial. The age of wandering warriors is fading, like mist before sunrise. But you're not done yet. You're in your 30s now, and the duels haven't stopped. They've just evolved. No longer spontaneous scraps behind tea houses or challenges shouted from muddy paths. Now, they're performances. Strategic, psychological, deliberate. And you've become the grand master of mind games. Take the duel with Sasaki Kojiro. That name might ring a bell, it should. He's one of the finest swordsmen in Japan, tall, poised, elegant, with a weapon nearly as long as he is. His sword, the Monohoshizao, the drying pole, is infamous. People say it can cleave a swallow mid-flight. Dramatic, sure, but impressive. You agree to fight him on a remote island, Ganryujima. Word spreads. It's the event of the season. This time, you show up, not just late, but fashionably, insultingly, eternally late. You arrive by boat, yawning, unarmored, and, this is crucial, wielding an oar you carved into a wooden sword during the ride over. The duel begins. You're calm. He's furious. He swings. You dodge. You strike. One blow. It's over. Kojiro falls. The crowd falls silent. You don't gloat. You just nod, turn, and walk away, back to the boat. Historians still argue whether Kojiro was lured into emotional recklessness or whether the duel was rigged. Either way, you win again. After that, you slow down. Just a little. You've fought over 60 duels, and you've never lost. Some say the real number is closer to 100. A few claim you faked your death just to avoid more fights. But the truth? You're evolving. You begin teaching your sword style, not for glory, but for discipline. You start writing essays, sketching diagrams, meditating on waves and birds and death. You describe combat in metaphors, like cutting the enemy's spirit, or becoming as fluid as water. It sounds mystical. It sounds poetic. It also sounds like you haven't slept in a few days, and you're obsessed with timing. You once wrote, "Timing is everything. Not just in swordplay, but in life. When to strike, when to wait, when to say nothing at all. That's your secret sauce. Not just strength or speed, but the perfect moment. You're also kind of a minimalist. You never marry. You don't settle. You don't even own much. A sword, a robe, maybe some ink and paper. You still sleep on floors. You avoid luxury like it might bite. The world shifts. New rulers, new wars, new technologies. But you stay stubbornly analog. One odd fact, you once designed a fortress, the Hozoen-yama Castle. You created a layout so clever it baffled professional architects. It had angled walls, staggered steps, and oddly placed windows, meant to confuse attackers. They never used it. Too weird. But it proves your mind isn't just sharp, it's unpredictable. You also carry a pocket full of fringe knowledge, like the fact that some samurai used blowfish poison on their blades, or that you once trained with farmers who used hoes and rakes as weapons. You learn from everyone. You imitate everything. You even study animals, watching how a crane lifts its leg or how a cat corners a mouse. You're not just a swordsman anymore. You're a strategist, a philosopher, a slightly deranged artist with bruised knuckles and a 1,000-yard stare. But you're not ready to disappear yet. Not before you finish writing something that might just outlast your blade. You find your final refuge not in a palace, not in a dojo, but in a cave. A literal hole in the mountain near Kumamoto called Reigondo, Spirit Rock Cave. It's quiet there, damp, a little drafty, but perfect for writing, thinking, and occasionally yelling at birds. You bring only the essentials: a mat to sleep on, a pot for rice, brushes, paper, and your swords. No servants, no distractions, just stone walls and your swirling thoughts. You're around 50 now, ancient by samurai standards, and your body is beginning to betray you. Your hands tremble, your vision flickers, but your mind? Razor sharp. Each morning, you meditate under the dripping rocks. Each night, you scribble by candlelight. What you're writing is more than a memoir, more than a training manual. It's your philosophy, your legacy, your final duel against time. You call it Gorin no Sho, the Book of 5 Rings. It's a strange little book, dry, cryptic, half poetry, half instruction manual. You divide it into 5 parts: earth, water, fire, wind, and void. Each represents a principle of combat, but also of life. Earth, stability. Water, adaptability. Fire, aggression. Wind, the styles of others. Void, the mystery at the center of everything. Void is the hardest. You save it for last. You don't name drop much. You don't gloat. You barely mention your duels. Instead, you speak in riddles. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. The sword is the mind. The mind is the sword. Historians still argue whether you truly understood Zen, or if you just made up your own version out of scraps and dual smoke. Either way, it's weirdly calming, kind of like trying to read a fortune cookie while being punched. But you don't stop with writing. No, you're also sketching birds, carving statues, practicing tea ceremony. Yes, tea ceremony, with a focus so intense it borders on supernatural. You've fought samurai, monks, bandits, and maybe even a bear or two. But now you duel your greatest enemy, boredom. And yet, people keep visiting. Disciples, daimyo, poets, tourists. They trek up the mountain to meet the swordsman turned scribe who doesn't bathe, who speaks in riddles, who once beat a martial arts school with a stick. They want wisdom. You give them chores. One story says you told a student to watch how a leaf floats downstream. For 3 days. You were either teaching patience or just trolling. Hard to say. Meanwhile, your adopted son, Ayori, is thriving in the Tokugawa bureaucracy. He's clean, organized, and mildly horrified by your cave lifestyle. He brings you rice, ink, and updates from the capital. You grunt in appreciation and go back to painting fish on rocks. You're not trying to be a recluse. You're just done. You've outlived the age of duels. The world doesn't need swordsmen anymore. It needs accountants. You're a relic now. One who creaks when he sits down and smells faintly of moss. Still, you keep writing. Keep sharpening your thoughts like they're blades. Your book is nearly finished. Your last lessons, nearly carved into the mountain's breath. The cave grows colder. Your bones ache, but your brush never slows. The end, when it comes, is quiet. No grand duel. No poetry reciting rival striking you down beneath cherry blossoms. Just the rhythm of your own breath, slower now, shallower. You sit cross-legged in your cave, in full armor. Not because you expect a fight, but because it feels right. A life lived by the sword should end seated with one. You're 61, a respectable age. You've written your truth. You've taught your students. You've baffled and inspired in equal measure. You feel the cave's damp breath around you, cool against your skin. The candle beside you flickering in the draft like it too is unsure whether to stay. Your eyes close. You don't leave behind a castle or treasure or even a proper house. You leave behind the Book of 5 Rings, your odd and enduring scroll. For centuries, samurai, CEOs, artists, and martial artists alike will quote you without fully understanding you. Some will treat your book as gospel. Others will dismiss it as babble from an eccentric hermit. Both will be a little right. Your teachings live on, passed from student to student. Iori keeps your memory alive, publishing your writings and making sure your name isn't lost in a drawer somewhere under weird sword guy. You become a symbol of individual mastery, of someone who walked their own crooked, muddy, barefoot path and somehow made it legendary. And your art? Still around. People marvel at the grace of your brushwork, the eerie calm of your ink dragons and swaying reeds. They don't always connect them to the same hand that cracked skulls with tree branches. But maybe that's the point. Maybe your greatest legacy wasn't that you won every duel. Maybe it's that you outgrew them. Historians still argue whether your story is inflated. whether you really never lost a single duel, whether you killed with kindness or just with strategy. But the details hardly matter now. The myth is complete. In modern Japan, children hear your name in school. Martial artists bow to your memory before training. Your face appears on murals, your style still practiced in dusty dojos. You've become something more than a man. You've become inconveniently immortal. And all of this sweeping journey from barefoot kid to cave-dwelling sage, happened because you picked up a stick, asked someone to fight, and never stopped asking. You probably didn't plan it this way. You never really planned much. You just walked forward, stubborn as a mountain goat, until the mountain itself blinked first. And now, you rest. The cave fades now gently. The ink brush falls quiet. The candle goes out. You let the image settle. Musashi seated in stillness, surrounded by scrolls and silence. The clatter of blades is gone. The arguments of scholars quieted. What remains is stillness and breath. Imagine the hush of a forest at dawn. Imagine the slow drift of mist along a river's edge. That's where you are now. Not in a battle, not in a city, but in the calm between moments. Your hands unclench, your thoughts slow. The rush of names and dates gives way to gentle clouds of memory. The path you walked tonight wasn't about victory. It was about becoming comfortable with uncertainty, with walking a crooked road at your own pace, wooden sword in hand, hair in your eyes, and no map in sight. You're allowed to exhale now. The kind of breath that feels like a warm blanket. You're not a warrior tonight. You're not even a listener anymore. You're just here, and that's enough. So, settle deeper. Let the soft hum of the fan or the far-off street sounds blend into a single, lulling note. Let your pillow cradle your head like river stones cradle water. And if your mind drifts to swords or caves, or swirling ink on parchment, that's okay. Let it wander. There's nothing left to prove, nothing more to do. Just rest. Just sleep.